Thankfully, my previous release, Uyere, has shown that a female in the lead can also helm a big budget, a massive commercial success film. It's just that I also realized that I also want the Avengers pace now. Tanuja is like, Parvathy, why aren't you doing comedy? You have such timing. I'm like, I do.
Parvathy, so lovely to have you with me and Baradwaj Rangan. We're both very excited to have you here. What we wanted to do was basically look at how the pandemic has upended all traditional notions of uh, films, of film industry, of power structures. And we wanted to just talk to you. Of course, the landscape is changing every day, and it's impossible to predict where this is all finally going to settle in. But we wanted to talk to you in the meanwhile about how this is all going to play out for women in film. Because the more we talk to people, the more we're hearing that everyone's now looking at smaller films, intimate dramas, just the kind of stuff that women have already been excelling in. So we want to talk about, could it be advantage women? That
I think, as unfair as it sounds, our film industry has always, placed the burden of the bigger budget film on the hero's shoulders, and women have always been relegated to good films, sure, interesting films and all that, but always something that is, something that is less expensive, or something that is a more modest kind of production. Do you think OTT has the power to change that perception?
Thankfully, my previous release, Uyere, has shown that, a female in the lead can also helm a big budget, a massive commercial success film, and we keep pushing the envelope. So that shouldn't change is the hope, but considering where our economy is at this point and how it's plummeting, I'm definitely curious to know, and also worried to see how our producers are going to stay afloat, to what degree they can, even if they wish to creatively experiment and go beyond the budget and all, I don't know how much they'll be able to push it. In terms of female participation, not just as an actor, for me, I guess it's because I'm diversifying and sort of branching out for the last 8 to 9 months as a director and writer as well. I'm looking at this. See, I don't know about the old normal. I'm very, very much a child of the old normal, but I'm very open to the disruption of it. Because, however the puzzle's gonna fall, I have a feeling there's going to be, I don't know, I'm hoping, I guess this is being a little too optimistic. I'm hoping that there is a certain participation from all genders that will be required to create content. And I think OTT definitely is leading that because of, first of all, the how approachable it is, and how censorship isn't as as prevalent there. I mean, I don't know when that's going to fall on its head either, but I have a feeling that I personally have gotten offers not as an actor, more as a director and writer on OTT platform, and so have my friends, and I see that female participation is a lot more welcome. Or I don't know if suddenly it's as if like a shutter just opened and suddenly there are too many of these offers. And I have a feeling it's also because most of the stories that I had in mind were, like Barry was saying, were intimate ones. They weren't like grand scope. I mean, I did have that as well, like massive Black Widow style stuff too, but also very intimate stuff with 1 or 2 characters. And now, given COVID, we can actually do with 2 characters would be something a producer would greenlight immediately. I mean, I don't want to say that COVID has given us that as an advantage, but that definitely does work out. So I'm very optimistic in terms of the kind of participation women are going to have a lot more in different parts of the filmmaking, henceforth in the new normal.
Yeah, that's what actually, that's what I meant. It wasn't that somebody's disadvantage should become our advantage. It's just that the whole the way of doing things is now not going to be it's just not there anymore. I mean, for the first time in the history of cinema, we don't have box office, right? So my question is, what does this then do to the star system? Because the star system is directly linked to bums on seats. It's directly linked to box office. Do you two see that shifting in any way?
No, I think that's a very valid, dangerous space. Already I see when, when movies are releasing in theaters, I'm privy to PR strategists discussing how to, there's organized attacks against certain films or organized extreme support towards certain films, and how they have started using cyber crime, in fact, to even, further their interests. So while that's happening, even for box office releases in theaters, once this completely goes digital, then I don't know what is the kind of demarcation, or what is the kind of, I don't know, what is the standard operating procedure, or who will be the one monitoring this. And who are the vulnerable ones, who are the vulnerable stakeholders in this. All of this is the disruption that I was talking about. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to get very ugly, and a lot of people and their money are going to be at stake. But for example, remember the time when it was film and not digital? Do you remember the films where that and from that acting to when digital camera came in and then film was no longer used, there was even a shift in our acting. There was a shift in our performance. There's a gradual change in that, and the gradual change in the visual habits of the audience also. So what's happening is, in this period of lockdown, what I'm thinking, or probably I'm just hoping will happen, is that our senses are going to open away from, coming back to the star part of what your question, going to open to so many different kinds of artists and their performances, and so many kind of content, that when you come back to the theater, let's hope we will,
Yes.
Because I wouldn't want to let go of that either. I hope the audience will keep the industry accountable to ask for such content too, and not spiral back to a mob devta mentality of certain things, and only that ruling. I feel that is already sort of happening. There are high stakes, audience are already holding responsible. Netflix may actually have a certain palette. If you see on their screen, they have a certain tinge and the colors that they use, but that doesn't mean that each film is exactly as good as the other.
Right.
That's a bit of a trick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas Amazon doesn't have that. It's all colors, and it's just all kinds of poles apart. So that's what I'm hoping will happen with the star space, is that I'm really enjoying the different kinds of artists that I'm when I watch Sony, I look up to those actors, and I'm jealous in the most positive, healthy, competitive way too. And I want to see more actors like that getting full-fledged, fleshy characters, so that we can see that can also be monetized when we go back to the big screen.
So when that's actually what I was going to go to next. Wouldn't it be a little bit of a relief to kind of not be in the star ranking system race if we went all OTT? And two, don't you think that the system of saying that, oh, it's a commercial movie, so we should cast a star with more star value, versus, oh, this is a subject oriented movie, so let's cast an actor who can actually act, that kind of demarcation will also lessen with OTT?
I think one star system will always get replaced by another kind of star system.
You think so?
That's what, okay. Yeah, I really think so. I think even if it goes on to an OTT space, there will be another character and a texture to it. But I think we are all sort of just, human nature is such that we are kind of, we gravitate towards hierarchy. And that's some things of a pattern that we relate to or resonate with. I don't know if it's colonial even, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a very basic tribal mindset of having a certain structure. So I would say that as long as stars can be, whichever kind of stars can be more answerable and accountable to the kind of content they're putting out there, that is something I would like to see. And I think OTT has a better chance of getting critiqued well than box office films. Box office films come out, or the theatrical releases come out, and there is this big deluge of reviews and 3.5 to 5 stars and this and that, and nobody can make sense of what the politics of the film is, or what the star has actually, star in the sense even the director being the star, the producer being the star, has actually put out to the mass. And in OTT there is a bit more of scrutiny that's happening, and I'm hoping that that continues. And I feel that that will be a different star structure, but I hope that will be something that will have a little more accountability held on to it.
You
Do you
know,
think sorry.
during the art house movement of the 70s and the 80s, you did have the stars. You did have Nasir, Om, Shavana, Smita. You know, there was a star system for sure. Barry, please go on.
No. So I was going to say back to the 80s again. Do you think a Sridevi, Madhuri Dixit kind of, you know, that the people that we hold up to as female stars capable of drawing people to the seats, however bad the movie, which is the definition of a star, right? It's like the opening weekend is always going to be good, regardless of the quality of the movie, because they have that pull. Do you think that's what's going to get replaced, Parvathy? Like in terms of a new kind of a system, if OTT continues to be the norm?
See, what's very exciting is that OTT also, like, it's not just films, right? It's also these limited series which are really like not just binge watching. I personally have a problem with 8-season wale series. Like, that's a commitment, that's a relationship. I'm never ready for that. For me, it's something like unbelievable. You know, it's 8 episodes, it's 45 minutes, and then you are with it, and there is an end to it, and there is a certain gratification, but you're also sort of marinating along with the characters and their story, and they have enough time also to do that, right? So one such series that I saw was Mrs. America, and I was blown away by that. And here's a story that happened in the 1970s in a span of 10 years that they have shown in 9 episodes. And that for me is a blockbuster. If that was a movie, that would have been a blockbuster hit here. Like, I would have wanted to act with Tapsi in that, you know, like want to make such a film here. And I have a feeling there is more possibility of making a blockbuster OTT film with such a subject, and with the charm, hopefully, that Sridevi ma'am and like Madhuri ma'am and all have, you know, brought to our thing. We need to revive that. One of the things that I find missing in Bollywood and the rest of the country is that the charm and the comic timing of those actors have not been given a chance. Like, we've been not been given a chance to do that. It's always been survival stories, and not that we can get tired of it, but we have comic timing too. And sometimes, like, I have to quote Tanuja, I hope she doesn't mind saying this. Tanuja is like, Parvathy, why aren't you doing comedy? You have such timing. I'm like, I do. People only seem to see that I am this strong, intense eyes and, like, you know, all that. So I feel that area, that writing has to be done, which is what I'm trying really hard with my co-writers and everyone, to bringing that, you know, a flea bag for us, you know, like, so to speak. So, but yeah, I have a feeling there is this whole YOLO going on with me right now with COVID. I don't know if COVID has that element added to this. I am going all out. I'm like, hum ye kyun nahi bana sakte hain, wo kyun nahi bana sakte hain? Because at this point, even the shortest budget film seems to be getting made. For example, my friends Ashik and Harshad are making a film in 20 days, and Rima is doing the main lead, and there's hardly 3 or 4 characters in that, like main characters. So 20-day schedule, tiny little budget, and I'm like, I'm gonna assist. Like, they're shorting people, I'm gonna assist. And everyone's making these tiny films, and they know for a fact that they will get sold. Now, back pre-COVID times, such a movie probably would have had a tough time getting released and getting, like, or breaking even. But here there is a scope for such films to kind of get a you know, bigger audience. I don't know if I digress, Patty.
No, but isn't this exciting? So that's what I mean, that when the traditional ecosystem is shaken to the core, maybe what will come is innovation like this, you know, because we are forced into it. We don't have a choice anymore. We have to innovate. We have to be creative. Patty?
Do you think that not having a box office number associated with the film, and people just like, which kind of determines you know, people have liked it or not liked it or something like that, in a not necessarily that they will like it. Do you think that a movie landing up on OTT directly without that number attached to it, do you think that's likely to get a more unbiased kind of view from the viewer.
You know what, Kareeb Kareeb Single though, this was my experience is that, see, the movie had a really warm reception, but from what I remember, it wasn't a massive hit. It did not go beyond certain degree and became, the only talk in town and all. It was really warmly received. And I remember once it got onto Netflix, then it started. Then it was like, everyone's like, "Ye release kab hua tha?" Or like, what were the reviews back then? How much did it? I have Instagram messages in which people are asking, is like, "Man, iska this must have been a massive hit when it released. When did it release? How come I didn't hear much about it?" So I'm not saying that. See, I have always found it very tricky what publicity does for theatrical releases. Like, what kind of publicity reaches so many people, and I'm not an authority figure to talk about that. But Kareeb Kareeb Single definitely flourished since it got on Netflix, way more than when it released. And in that way, I kind of like going a little blind into watching a film than the publicity that is generated, unless it's very smart publicity. Like I really loved every single item of publicity that was done for Thapad, because it was constantly only speaking of the content, and sort of, it was like a shepherd, like getting the sheep into the theater. So that is exactly the kind of publicity that I like, than just sort of how do you say, titillate the audience with the star and saying, "Come see them shirtless, come see them like this, you would get to see this shot." So I personally feel that for Kareeb Kareeb Single, Netflix or the OTT platform presence did a lot of good. People have watched it 5-6 times and have commented on it. I prefer it. I prefer if movies release without much expectations hyped up.
I have to tell you, I love theatrical, and I would never want to imagine a world without movie theaters. But that Friday when Gulabo Sitabo dropped, it was so refreshing to not get the WhatsApps about box office, to not have that conversation, abhi Ayushman ka draw kitna hai, first day first show kitna hua. That whole kind of spectator sport around that Friday opening, which is what it had become, and that kind of as the decider of the quality of a film. It was
sort of bookie system nahi lagta tha, Anupama. Like it's like we are looking at a horse race.
Exactly.
It is.
Exactly. I remember one interview, Kabir Khan had told me that I feel like no one's even asking ki yaar film kaisi hai. Everyone's just saying opening kya lagi. So to not have that was just so nice, and to have people weighing in on whether they liked it, whether they found it too slow, how good Farooq Jafar was just so nice. And I just hope that post-pandemic, we take back some of this. We take back that let's talk about the film. Baddy's shaking his head.
Baddy is such a cynic. Baddy, I'm with you on that. I have a feeling. It's a kind of habit that has been formed over the years. Also, I feel with the kind of movies we expect on bigger screen, is that punch kab aayega, punch dialogue, plot twist kab aayega, nahi aayega. I remember when I think this was in January, pre-COVID, kind of pre-COVID. I was watching Shoplifters, and I remember I took my time, obviously, and sat and watched it. And it's like, it's been ages. Or, for example, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, right? And I'm like, ye kya hai pace? Like, I know I probably will be trolled for this. I slept in between. I slept off. I literally slept off. Not because I didn't like it. I loved the film. One of the people who loved the film. But I dozed off because the frames were like a lullaby. It's like I could just sleep off to it. So I say that in the most positive sense. It's just that I also realize that I also want the Avengers pace now. So I'm hoping that OTT, this is all just hope, but I'm also part cynic and part optimist. So I have a feeling the moment you give back an older habit, which has been set over a period of time, this whole new revelation and profoundness about movie watching will all go out the window.
Oh dear.
I remember an interview. I don't know if it's a filmmaker or I think it's an actress who said this. She said, मैं जान दे के acting कर रही हूँ, and I don't want to act in TV movies because I don't want like a family sitting down for dinner and watching me while worrying if the roti is hot. Well, I'm like giving my heart out and acting out this intense scene. Now with OTT, you have this other thing also, that anybody can pause at any time. You want something to be viewed in a continuity, but then they're going to view it whenever they want, as opposed to a theater where they're stuck pre-interval and post-interval. They're pretty much stuck in their seat. Do you think that might affect the way, that might not be the greatest thing for you?
No, I don't feel like I'd lose out on anything because of this. Okay, so the thing is that respect to my performance now comes at the performance point. Like when I'm performing in front of the camera and I've done this shot and my makers are happy and we have put it together and the edit is done, I have received the respect. I'm not insecure after that. Like I will be very insecure on set.
So it's a
So
process.
yeah, it's the process and what I get out of it. I'm very selfish about that. And so my only contract per se with the audience is that I'll give you the 100%. Okay, and I hope you like it. I hope you can resonate, relate, debate with the performance and the story, but I can't force you to do it. Like if you choose to pause and go and come back, there's a little you lose out on that experience. So like that's what I would always say to an audience, is like, dude, like if you don't shut down the lights and if you don't sit and watch it at one go, there is one certain kind of benefit you'll get out of if you watch it like that. If you don't want to do this, like my brother and I used to have this debate, because I tell him, watch this movie, it's amazing, and he'll immediately go to IMDb or Wikipedia and read the plot. I'm like, kya kar raha hai yaar bhai? Like you can't read the plot and go. He's like, I want to see if it is worth my time. I'm like, and me being from the industry, I'm like, it's sacrosanct. You should go in not knowing. You should let the movie take you in and all that.
Yeah.
My brother is like, I don't have the time. I work in HR, man. Like, what do you expect? Like, and so for me, I'm like, see, each person with their background and what job they do and what kind of time they have, it's entirely their thing. You do what you want to do with a piece of art that's been given to you. I don't consider that disrespect and all that. But मुझसे अगर पूछोगे तो मैं कहूँगी, if you want a full-blown experience that can actually change your DNA, your emotional DNA, you sit and watch it at one go. If you do that, good for you. If not, yaar, mera kuch nahi jayega because I have given my all. So that's about it.
Tell me, in the last few months, as you've been talking to other people in the film business, as you're watching sort of new kind of ideas take place, you know, everybody's kind of talking to each other about how do we do this? How do we start shooting again? And I believe in Kerala, shoots have begun. They have started, like you were saying, your friends have started doing some very small scale shoots. What are the things you're hearing that give you hope that there's going to be a better tomorrow?
What I hear is that, see, budget-wise, a lot of cuts are happening. But I can still see that they are trying to include as many people as possible. That makes me happy because see, I have only had like one assistant who's also my makeup man. I'm worried for them. I'm not worried. See, actors will be hired. You know, even there, the supporting characters are always going to be like taken out of the script itself. Like a passing shot won't be there. Junior artists are going to get affected. But I can see that the way they are planning the schedule, in the way they're planning to rotate the team and schedule it, is to also include as many people as possible. So I hope that gives me a little hope that they are always putting the job and the employment part of it at the forefront. Yes, everyone's taking a pay cut. That's there for sure. And I genuinely hope that the stars do the most of the pay cut because they can see that now there's no theatrical releases, no that weekend wala, numbers that's working out for them. And so that gives me hope. And I also like how the government is extremely invested in making this work with the filmmakers. So there is constant meetings going on. And I feel like the economy is going to boom for us in terms of the film industry in Malayalam for sure. I see those discussions happen and everybody seems very positive and raring to go.
Oh, lovely. Barry, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
I cannot wait to see your comedies.
Yes.